All right, time to look at some numbers when we are talking about policy splits and cash value. More money or more efficiency? Would you rather finish strong, have that strong finishing kick like we talked about in the last video, or would you rather win the race? So what we're going to look at in this video is as follows. We're going to look at $15,000 per year. We're going to look at a 1090 split directly compared to a 40/60 split. We're going to look at two funding options. So same company, same product. We're going to look at one of the four major mutual companies. We're going to look at a Legacy 100 product, meaning we can pay into it until we're 100 years old if we wanted to. But we're going to look at paying into the policy for 20 years and then also for 50 years. Age 40 male. That'll take him up until age 60, then also up until age 90. We could keep going till age 100, but we stopped at 50 years. Clean 50 years, doesn't really matter at that age. So let's get into it. What we've got here is a side-by-side comparison, but first let's take a look at the actual design. This way we can validate the breakdown. So what we'll begin with here is our 1090 split. So what we've got, where's the money going? What we've got here, annual outlay, $15,000 per year. If I am a consumer, if I'm considering this policy, I want to know where my money is going to ensure that it is designed for maximum cash value, if that's my goal. So money can go where? We discuss this frequently, toward the insurance premium, which is right here, $1,500. So we set it at 10% of the total desired payment. And one thing I want to mention here as well, we're not committed to the $15,000. We have the $1,500 base premium, and the company will allow us to pay a total of 10x that base premium into the policy per year for a total of $15,000. If someone said, hey, I might want to be able to pay more than $15,000 per year, what we would do is increase the MEC limit, but also the base premium. If someone said, hey, in a perfect world, or I can see my income going up, I may want to be able to pay in $25,000 on any given year. Well, what we could do is still have the same $15,000 per year going in, but instead of having a $1,500 base premium, we would set it at $2,500 because we can 10x that base premium. And then we would compare it to this one back and forth to see which one we're comfortable with as a consumer to ensure everything's maxed out properly. But I wanted to slide that in there because that question comes up a lot, and it's a good question. So, money's going where? Premium, $1,500. Now, we have a term insurance rider, let's circle this in green, of about $270,000. We see $700 here. That is not the cost of the term. The actual cost of the term in this example is a little over $200. We can get the exact, but it's minimal. This is a blended PUA rider where a portion of the payment goes toward term insurance and then the rest goes toward PUAs. Then in blue, this 12.8 is a pure paid up additions rider. Just money dumped into cash, purchases us additional whole life insurance death benefit as well. Paid up additional life insurance, that's where the money's going. Okay, so as we take a look at this, $15,000 per year, money column, net cash value, 74.8. We've paid in 75 over 5 years. We're just about there in year 5. We're getting there, and positive year 6. With a traditional product like this, a paid up at age 100, when it comes to the base premium dollars specifically, this $1,500 here, this does not show up in cash value in the first and second year. And we can actually see that when we look at this column, basic policy cash value end year. What this represents is the cash value buildup off of the base premium only, which in this example is $1,500. And if it only received the guarantee, no dividends forever, no PUAs, nothing like that. So the only thing I want to highlight here is the first and second year, based off base premium payments, what shows up in cash value? Nothing. And you'll see that consistent with most traditional products. A lot of times we'll use different types of products that only overcharge one in the first year. Some don't overcharge at all and the cost is spread out, different products and such. So everything looks good here. What I want to look at before we look at the 40/60, we've got the 20-year funding. Cash value is what by year 20? Net cash value, $442,000. Just when we look at the Excel sheet, you'll see everything match up. MEC limit, $15,000 and change. And this policy, by the way, did not MEC short-term, long-term, nothing like that. We've got MEC test videos on that. 40/60 split. Where's the money going? Now for the 20-year fund option, like we see here, we did not need to add a term rider with the 40/60 split for a 40-year-old male. I will add, if we want to fund for 21 years at the same $15,000, it will MEC. So if there's a chance that an individual wants a 40/60 split, wants to pay $15,000 per year, and wants to fund the policy longer than 20 years, we would want to add a term insurance rider. Or his alternative would be to reduce the funding and pay in less than $15,000 per year beginning year 21. In this option, we're going to stop after 20 years altogether. Let's progress through though. So $15,000 total going in. Where's the money going? Premium, $6,000. Where you'll often see the base premium on a life insurance illustration, because all companies have different terminology and verbiage, here it is referred to as the base policy insurance. With some companies, it will read base face amount. Some, it'll read the name of the product. Depends on the company, product, what we're looking at there. But this example, that's my base premium. Then we've got $9,000 directed toward PUAs. What do you see from a performance standpoint? Net cash value, $9,600 right off the bat. Takes between 8 and 9 years to break even. You're going to see this when we look at the actual side-by-side comparison. We're going to track the total payments, looking at the growth, everything. What was your cash value at the end of year 20? Do you recall that? It's about 442 in the 1090. Here, you've got 433. Again, we're going to look at a side-by-side to make this easy. But what's my MEC limit? Look at that. $15,000 and change. Very comparable in that respect. So we've got two policies with the same company, same health rating, same age, same product, same everything. So let's look at a direct comparison. And what we're going to look at, going back to the last video, that track race, do I want to win the race or do I want to be more efficient? I want to win the race at the end of the day. So let's take a look. Side by side, 1090 on the left. All those illustrations you just saw, we pulled the values, put them right on here. 15K per year. There we go. Year 5, I paid in 75, just about there. This example, the 40/60, when's your break even? Year 8, you've paid in 120, you're at 119, just about there. Year 9, you're positive. So you've got more money from start to finish. Year 1 with a 1090, $13,000. Year 1 with the 40/60, $9,600. I want to make a comment on this point. If I'm just looking at the early years, we're going to look at this long term, but if I'm looking at the early years and I plan on using my money for anything, business, real estate, debt, which one would I rather have? Opportunity cost. If I have access to capital to use for other investments and such, that is where I'm going to grow my net worth, my business, everything. Access to capital. Seeing the long-term results, even if this produces more, which it doesn't, but even if it doesn't, like I can do a lot more with my money here, and I don't really care about the extra 0.25% I might get in a 40/60, and might's a big word. So let's take a look here. As time passes, what do we see? Here's where it gets really interesting. Year 20, by age 60, I've paid in a total of $300,000. With a 1090, What do you have in cash value? $442,000. With the 40/60, it caught up, but not quite enough. You're at 433, almost 434. So a little less than $10,000 less in the 40/60 by year 20 than the 1090. But you also had more money all the way through with the 1090. As time passes in this example, because we stopped the funding in 20 years here and kept all things equal, you're not going to see much of a difference. In fact, let's take a look here. First at the cash value growth, then we'll look at the cash value difference. So the growth, this will be interesting. When are the worst years of a life insurance policy? We touched on this with the illustration. The base premium does not show up in the first year and the second year. So going back to that track race, 800 meters, out of the gates, 1090, I'm out of the gates fast. I'm trying to keep up with the competition, those guys that are out, because I don't want them to get too far ahead of me, otherwise I'm going to lose the race. So this minimizes my upfront drag. Over here with the 40/60, when I see cash value growth negative, what this means, year one, you pay in $15,000, you see $9,600 show up in cash value. If there's a negative, that means you paid in $15,000 and lost $53.85. Year two, I pay in $15,000. The net, I lost $48.66. Year three, I paid in $15,000. I lost $12.84. This is the kind of stuff I want to isolate and be aware of. If I'm okay with it, that's perfectly fine. Same thing with this guy. By year three, I pay in $15,000. Why I see $80 there? If I look at the cash value, grows by $15,000 plus another $80 and gets stronger and stronger each year. Now, as time passes, what do we notice here? If you compare these cash value difference columns, or cash value growth columns, I'm sorry, year 20, what do you notice? 1090, you grew by 17.7. 40/60, you grew by $19,000 and change. Which one is growing faster? Which one has a stronger finishing kick? Who won the race? Meaning, which one do you have more money in? Would you rather, again, see stronger growth long term, or simply have more money because you're out of the gates faster, which means you can use that money to multiply your money in other areas? That's how I look at it, right? Would I rather earn $100,000 every single year and put that to work, or start out earning $10,000, next year $15,000? I'll eventually get to a point where I'm earning $200,000, but the guy that earned $100,000 every year put that other money to work, and now he's got $10 million, or the guy that was slow to start has $5 million. It's like, I don't care if I'm earning more, I've already lost. Not to compare it to a race in that respect, but hopefully that's clear and that makes sense. If we look at this over time, let's look at the CV difference actually. Cash value difference, meaning how much more or how much less money do I have in both of these options when I compare them to each other. And it's the same company and product, by the way. Like, this is nothing, manipulating illustrations. We had that illustration up before. Like, it's the same thing, just redirecting where the money's going. We see a difference. So initially, there's a big difference. As time passes, with the way we designed this policy, and really the 40/60, why we made it a 20-year fund is that favored the 40/60 more than any other scenario. Meaning we tried everything we could to beat the 1090 from a design standpoint. Couldn't do it. We came very close. And remember, if we want to make another payment here, to say, well, what does it look like if you keep paying into it? If we keep paying $15,000, year 21, it would mech. So what you could do, as an alternative, is pay just the base premium, the $6,000 base, and we've done studies on this before. For a fair equivalent, what you would do with this guy then, which you can keep paying $15,000 per year, so there's a big difference with this, without a mech, you could pay $6K, which would actually be broken up between 1,500 in base, and then the rest would be what, 4,500 in PUA. And we've done studies on that in the past, split studies. Let us know if you'd like to see any of those. I know we've got a ton of content on our channel, but if you search split studies, they'll pop up. You'll be able to find it. It's on a 43-year-old individual, those examples. So this is the 20-year fund. A lot of fun here I had with it. Let's look at the 50 real quick. So with the 50-year fund, the 1090 is exactly the same. Meaning through the first 20 years, you're not going to see a change. Literally, all we did was continue to pump money into it and stress tested it to make sure it did not mech, but we're fine all the way through. So as time passes, there's our cash value growth. Well, I don't want to skip over this. With the 40/60, and a lot of people have gotten into trouble with this before, especially when dividends were higher back in the day, and they've come down, is to prevent a mech. If you have less money going into PUAs, your death benefit is not pushed up at a fast pace. And all that means is from a long-term mech testing standpoint, you can run into trouble. So as we stress tested this, and we don't want to just look at just the basic dividend ledger or illustration, you want to look at everything. I want to make sure we don't mech. We've really had to overinflate that death benefit. That's too high, I'm not comfortable with it, but to prevent a mech, we did that. And what do we notice? Year 9, we break even. Keeping that term rider to fund that long, it's not as attractive. This is actually, the 40/60 is less flexible than that 1090. And again, not just to come out and say one's better than the other period. If I've got a $6,000 base premium in this example, and I want to pay perhaps up to $60,000 per year, I deliberately built out more space, that's a different story. I do that with my policies where I'll commit to a minimum amount, but then at discretion, I've got my high-end limit where I can 10x my minimum premium. Some years, I could in theory pay a 50-50 split if I just double my base premium. But I know I've got the window room to pour in excess funds and not have to open up a new policy. So really, a lot of people we work with, it's not always just a consistent cash flow amount going into a policy. A lot of people will do that, but a lot of people we work with say, hey, here's my target amount, but in the event life happens, I don't want to be committed to that. Let me commit to a minimal amount so I can take the vice grips off. It doesn't feel like a burden, can pay that no problem. And then at my discretion, I can just pour the rest of the funds in. So as we look at this, kind of summing it up, and we can scroll down here, give myself some more space here. Let me take the CV difference formula so we can compare and contrast. And whenever you look at split studies too, if you're working with an agent, I would encourage you always to look at direct company comparisons, direct product comparisons, meaning you don't want to look at one company and product compared to another one. That's when it's not an apples to apples comparison. Things can be manipulated when we use different term riders and such. We want to have awareness around that fact. So this, like we showed it in the beginning of this video with the illustrations, same company, same product. Everything's the same. The consumer has transparency as far as what he or she is getting into. Maximum cash value. And look at all these charts and everything. This is just to show the comparison. We saw there, if you're looking at the numbers, the 40/60 never overtakes that 1090. The only way it would have a chance on an illustration from that perspective, not actual performance, is if we paid for 20 years, going back to the 20-year option, then continued to pay the base premium of $6,000 thereafter, and on the 1090, only paid the base premium of $1,500. So you'd have to pay less money when you really look at the numbers. So hope this helps. If you enjoyed this technical video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Thanks so much. Hey guys, Steve Parisi here. If you enjoyed the content you just saw, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for future videos. If you'd like more information or to see some custom policies for yourself, feel free to call or email our offices at the contact information below.